it doesn't want to move e5. Okay, so g3, knight c6, bishop g2, and now in this video we look at all the continuation that are not d6 or g6, which will be dealt with in the next video. This is the closed Sicilian reversed, and this is video, the coming video. So what is in this one? Actually not that much, but it's still too much to be somewhat fit into a different video and make it too long. So what are the main things in this one? f5. This is the reverse Grand Prix. This is what we're going to look at mostly in this video. But let's have a look what else is possible. Knight f6, of course, is a good move, probably the best move objectively. After knight c3, we transpose to something that we have looked at earlier via the 2 knight f6 move order. Also perfectly playable move for black is the move bishop c5. Very natural, healthy move. Knight c3, and again black can transpose with knight f6 to something that we already know. We play a3 in this position, or black can try to postpone that. There is a particular idea that I want to show, and this is the following. Black can also play d6 here, e3, a6, knight e2, bishop a7. So what is he doing? He is not developing the king side, not committing to anything there yet. Why is that a tricky idea? Thing is, if white now plays a natural looking move, castles, he will be in trouble, because the crude move h5 is very, very dangerous. It should absolutely not be underestimated. If white now plays h4, black is even lashing out with g5, and I can absolutely assure you that you don't want to play this position. This is extremely uncomfortable. I know it's caveman chess, but it's super dangerous. So be very cautious with normal moves like castles. In this position everything points towards h5 being dangerous. There's no knight yet played, so the queen is close to the action. h5, h4 is very quick. The knight is on e2, so there's no knight f3 to stop the pawn. And the bishop is here, which is not yet looking so dangerous there, but any counterplay potential with d4 will make this bishop more active. So be a bit cautious about possible h5 pushes. Here it's not a big problem once you know that this might happen. A move like rook b1 fits perfectly into the position, and I think white is quite okay here. If black now tries h5, we have h4. Without the king on g1, this is not a big deal. Knight f6, b4, bishop e6, knight d5. This, for example, was a game between two grandmasters, Grandmaster Peturson with white against Fedorchuk, played in Berlin 2015. I think white is a little bit better here. Not much, but it's a nice position. Important was avoid h5. It can be quite dangerous. So let's turn to the f5 idea, the reverse Grand Prix. This is a line that actually I have played a little bit myself in blitz chess, not in rapid chess, not in regular tournament chess. I think for tournament chess it always felt a little bit too shaky to me, but I have some experience with blitz with this line, and after now having looked at white's possibilities a little bit more, I think I will abandon the whole idea. We'll see what I'm coming up with. So knight c3, most normal move ever. Knight f6. Here white definitely has a choice. The move that is played quite a bit, but I don't like it much, is the move d3. I think after d3 black is quite happy to play bishop b4 and trade off this knight, this way preventing that a knight can come to d5. So after bishop d2, for example, black will often just take this and make sure that, again, no knight comes to d5. I think that black is quite okay in this kind of position. Note that also black's game here is often quite easy. He will play those pretty aggressive attacking ideas, and this is something that I definitely want to avoid. So what did I ultimately come up with? Move e3. I think this is a good choice for white. one nice point about this move is that many continuations now are downright dubious. Let's start with real dubious stuff. Bishop c5, a move that does not look so terrible at first, but is in fact a real issue here for black. Knight e2, d6 I guess is normal. After something like e4, we're happy to play d4, and this is a bit better for white. You always have knight here to d5 later. So more normal is d6, and then the trick to remember is d4, bishop b6, and now the move b4. And here black is in huge trouble. Yeah, the idea is c5 winning a piece, and black is, yeah, I don't really know what to say. It is pretty awful for him. This idea is even bad with colors reversed for the Grand Prix player, but here with the tempo up, it's essentially unplayable for black. So bishop c5 is a really bad idea here. A little bit better, but still good for white, is the move bishop to b4. I was quite surprised that I found a relatively recent game by Fabiano Caruana of that line. He probably was in an experimental mood that day. Yeah, okay, knight g2, castles, and now black should take on c3. This is what Caruana did, because after d6, the move knight d5 is good for white. This is a stranded piece. Black has to be quite careful there. For example, in a continuation like that, after queen a4, we see the problem, that bishop has no squares. Something like that is excellent for white. So black after castles basically here has to take on c3, as Caruana did. But the position that he got against Granda Zuniga was absolutely bad. Yeah, this is what happened. Can fast forward to that. This is a position after move 14. Granda Zuniga against Caruana, and white's position is excellent. It's got the pair of bishops, better center, more space. Yeah? What else do you want? It's a fantastic position here against current world number 2 or 3. Yeah? Depends when you watch the video. It all goes up and down. Yeah, not a good opening result for the American player. Bishop b4, not a move that's very scary. So what should black do against e3 actually? I think a pretty decent move, maybe the best move objectively, is g6. Black switches back to some close Sicilian reversed, and here white is already committed to the e3 move. Not a problem at all, but it's not something that we usually play. We don't play e3 in my suggested repertoire against 3g6 here, for example. But not a big deal. Knight e2, bishop g7, d3, castles, d6, rook b1. Yeah, normally we would have this position with the knight on f3 and the pawn back on e2. Now we have the knight on e2. No biggie. I think white still can be quite happy. We have b4, b5. Queenside play, and yeah, typically black will try like h6, g5 maybe, and we have f4 against that. All the typical plans of the close Sicilian, of course, also apply here. This is, however, this g6 is a very unconventional move order for black. You don't see that too often. A move that I want to show as well is the move e4. It's a bit weird looking, but interesting. Black tries a quick knight e5 to d3. White, however, is better if he attacks the center immediately, d3. This is the important move. Yeah, bishop b4 now is the interesting choice for black, trying to keep the center, but white is better, knight e2. Just developing and asking black how he will hold the center after further castles. Yeah, d5 is what black tries now most of the time. Knight e5 is possible, and it's a little bit of a scary move in some way, but white is in excellent shape. He can take on e4 and just castle. Knight f3 check, king h1. It looks very strange, but yeah, it's a funny line that I analyzed. Castles now is bad due to knight e4. There's queen d5 coming up. So black tries rook f8. Yeah, and I know how weird it looks, but what exactly do you play now? The funny thing is white has a direct win almost with knight takes e4. Takes and knight f4 now. Those two knights are skewered, and h4. White is a lot better. It's such a wacky computerish line. I wanted to show it. Yeah, so ultimately the move e4 is very, very risky for black. The relatively best is the following line: d3, bishop b2, e2, and then d5. Castles, d takes c4. And white will take on e4. This is the relatively best line, and white still has an advantage. Yeah, for example here, in a position like that, white has the better pawn structure and the better development. Is conveniently better. So all the way back to e3. What should black play? Okay, g6 is okay, but doesn't quite fit well probably with the attitude of the Grand Prix players. If you want to play g6, you could have done so earlier. They mostly try the move d5. Radical solution, but something that we already have seen. We have seen the move d5 in a similar setup with the bishop on c5 instead the f pawn being played. And one thing is comparable. White should not grab the pawn and hold onto it like this. I'm sorry, like this. This is very, very dangerous and should be avoided. Knight b4 here is very strong for black. There's this knight d3 idea. White absolutely should not take this material. So what is he supposed to do? Knight d5 is good, but after knight takes, just take with the c pawn. This is stronger. Knight to b4, and now d3, just covering the d3 square so that knight takes d3 cannot happen. Yeah, here knight takes d5 is the normal move. Black sometimes tries to be clever with other moves, but it usually backfires. The move c3, for example, is answered by queen b3. And this is not particularly great. It leads to a version of the main line, which is just, I think, a little bit worse. Yeah, knight takes d5, knight f3, bishop d6, e4, takes, something like that. I think white is quite a bit better here. The pawn structure is better, 2 pawn islands against 3. There are ideas like that in the position, or knight to c4, and the e5 pawn is long term a little bit of a problem. So I think white is quite better here. A weird move that black might try is queen to f6. Try it for queen a6, but we really don't care. Knight e2, queen a6, castles is good. Yeah, it's equal material. We have won a pawn on d5 at the start, and here this whole setup doesn't inspire much confidence. So the best is if we jump all the way back for black to just take the pawn back, after which we just develop our knight. And now black has a major decision to make. Does he want to trade his bishop on b4 or not? This check has been played a bit. For example, in the game Kramnik with white against Mateusz Bartel, after e4, I'm sorry, knight e7, d4, Kramnik had a comfortable position and a slight advantage. For example, after takes, the e-pawn will be permanently weak. It still takes very precise play, but Kramnik at the end managed to win a nice game against one of Poland's top players. The more popular move is bishop to d6, after which castles, knight f6. Yeah, note that black cannot castle. Queen b3, bishop e6, knight d4 is pretty devastating. So knight f6 has to be played first, and then the move queen b3 is important. Yeah, black cannot castle. Queen e7, and now the move e4. This is an important motif to remember. White will play e4 here, and I think will be a little bit better. The reason is that this pawn structure is just better for white long term. Black will probably at one point take here. We have 2 pawn islands against 3 again, and we've seen a very comparable position earlier. Sorry about my voice, a bit much that I recorded this day. The pawn structure is better, and white has the clearer ideas. Yeah, knight to f5, maybe knight over here. I think white is a little bit